Good morning.
Good morning.
So, I want to start talking. What was y'all's first job? What was your first job, Misa?
First job ever?
Yes, ever.
I worked at a ice cream parlor.
Oh, that's cute. Okay.
First job ever.
Okay.
Yes.
What about you, Sharifa?
My first job was a paper route. I was that girl on a
wow.
bike throwing papers.
That's intense.
No, it's crazy. I quit after the 2 days. My father ended up throwing the papers out his car.
Okay. And is there something from those jobs that still sits with you? Like, what did y'all learn from those jobs? I know it was a long time ago, but.
Yeah, I would say work ethic.
Yeah.
Working with the team, working with a group of people, and how important it is to work together to get things done.
Yeah.
I would say it was more about what I wanted, right?
Yeah.
My dad always taught me that I needed to work to get what I wanted. So I knew if I quit that job, I'm going to have to do another job in order to get the clothes that I wanted.
Right. Exactly. Right. So when did you all kind of figure out what you wanted to do? Because sometimes that's hard for people, but some people know very early on, like, how they want their career to look. Was that the case for you all, Misa?
I feel like my career found me. I was always into image and style. I loved everything about image, from hair to putting clothes together. Naturally, I was styling my friends growing up. It turned into designing prom dresses. And so I was always cultivating my work that I would end up doing as a stylist. So it was just in me. And I think, I was tapped in early into that gift, but I didn't know where it would take me. I didn't know that I could actually make a career and make money and monetize this gift, but it's something that I love to do, and it came so natural for me.
Mine came to me when I was getting a little bit older. Like I grew up in Brooklyn, born and raised, so shout out to Brooklyn. And if you lived in Brooklyn back in the 80s or the 90s, you knew you had to be fly all day. And like, I wanted to get dressed. I would get dressed just to sit in my house. Seriously. Right? And I knew that I wanted to be in fashion, but I also came up in the era of Oprah. And everybody saw that Oprah time when she was like, you get a car, you get a car.
Right.
I wanted to be that girl. So I knew I wanted to get dressed, and I also knew I wanted to be that person that was just giving back.
Yeah.
And it came to me as that kind of came about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like both of you all came up at a time when there weren't a lot of like blueprints to look up to for what you were trying to do. But now I feel like there's an influx of information, and sometimes people don't know where to go, what to pursue. Everyone's a multi-hyphenate. What's your advice for people who are trying to figure out, this is what I want to do, this is my path, this is my purpose, in terms of career?
Well, I think, to your point, there are so many organizations now, like Misa Hylton Fashion Academy, Envision Fest, Black in Fashion Council, Harlem's Fashion Row. So there are places that you can now research, see if it speaks to you, and find out about these organizations and network with individuals who are actually doing the things that you may dream to do. And I think that's what's great about today as opposed to when we were coming up.
I think you guys are living in the best time. Let's talk about that. I think that it's so much access to things, right?
Yeah.
But I also believe you got to understand what you really like. And at least you guys have that time, right? Like, I feel like when we were growing up, we was talk, go to school. If you don't go to school, you got to work, you got to work, you got to work. And sometimes nowadays, it's like, just relax and be a kid and understand like you're still in your growing stages, and you have time to do the research, and you have time to figure out what you wholeheartedly like to do. Because what's worse is if you have to be in a situation where you go to a job and you can't stand going there every day. Do you know? So I think it's about understanding, what do you like to do? And I always say, a lot of people are like, I just like sleeping. And I'm like, well, Sleepy's is hiring. Mattress companies is hiring. Somebody got to test out the mattresses, right? So it's like, understand what is it that you really, really love to do, and try to figure out that narrative. And then when you figure out that, then start to research and do all the stuff that you really want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And another part of this is about like role models, because a lot of times role models help us find our path and our purpose. So tell me, who do you think has had the most influence on your career path?
You want me to go first? I mean, it's really interesting. I really am always excited to talk about this conversation, but I'm
Yeah.
always also unhappy to talk about this conversation because my role model, unfortunately, didn't look like me. The person that structured my life the way it is a male Caucasian man, Jewish actually. And he's the one that kind of paved the path for me and opened the doors. I'm excited for that because he is and still is an amazing individual. But I never had someone that looked like me that said, you know what, Sharifa, let me hold your hand. Let's not even hold my hand. Let's have a conversation about life. I recently, and I'm 45, and I recently just found someone that I admire, that I respect, and that like I can speak to on an individual level.
Yeah.
And this is at 45. So what I will advise, and many of you people in here to do, especially the older individuals, try to reach back and help the younger ones, because it's unfortunate when you have brown young girls that don't have anyone to look up to, because then they're looking for other things to do.
Yeah, let's clap
Absolutely.
for that. It's so true.
And I didn't have anyone to look up to in the space, but what I did was bring the morals and the values and the things that I learned within my family from my parents and applied them to every situation that I found myself in and every challenge that I faced, right?
Yes.
So and I wasn't afraid to ask for help. I wasn't afraid to say I didn't know what something meant and to ask. And I think that, God, the Most High, brings people into your path that have the information that you need, that can help you. I call them earth angels along your walk. And so I was blessed to have people that helped me each step of the way as I began to figure it out. But I was a student
Yeah.
and still am a student of the game. You know what I mean? So I was always open to learn, and I wanted to be the best. I wanted to come across as a professional. I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I was in rooms with people that were actually doing this in different spaces, though not necessarily fashion, but I was observant, and I paid attention, and I listened. And so because I didn't have that person growing up, that really was the reason that it was imperative for me to start Misa Hylton Fashion Academy and to do the education and the mentorship work that we do. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, both of you brought up listening, which I think is so important. Listen, y'all. And then you brought up, we talked about it last night because I was like, what do you think made Sam invest so much in you? Because I think a lot of the times young people are like, can you be my mentor? Yeah. And it's like, that's not usually how it works. Like, it has to be a relationship where you feel like you're investing in someone who is also investing in you in a way. So why do you think Sam helped you so much? What were you doing that made him say, I see potential in her?
I think he saw the value in me. I worked in a retail store since I'm 16 years old, and he saw my hustle, he saw my grit, and he knew that I wanted to be bigger than what I was at the time. And he saw that vision before I saw it. And I think that when you have conversations with people, it's important to have real conversations. Don't just have surface level conversations where there's really no value. I think we sat down and talked about things. I told him about my home life. I told him about my upbringing. And you can't be embarrassed, right? So if you grew up poor, you grew up poor. That doesn't mean that's going to be your circumstance years from now, right? But you never know who's listening, and you never know who's really paying attention and who really wants to help you genuinely. So he saw all of those things and those qualities in me and took a chance, and that chance won, big.
Yes. But did you initiate those what made you feel comfortable sharing your story? Was he inquisitive?
He initiated them.
Oh, okay.
And he had conversations with me. It started off as, okay, what was your top sales? And we'll go back and
Got
forth.
it.
It was that kind of thing, because he owned the store. But then after a while, it was like, where are you from? What are you doing? And I think those are questions a lot of people in here should be asking their employees. Where are you from? What are you doing? When I hire people today, it's funny that my office cracks it up. That's the first thing. I'm like, what are you doing? How long you been here? Because that's a conversation. And that's the things that's important, So I also believe that we have to stop holding in like this. We like, oh, I don't want to tell my business. What they gonna tell? If you telling them, what they gonna tell? So it's like, how do you got to put yourself out there in order to get what you need, straight up.
And I like to add to what Sharifa said. I think when you are a true student and a hard worker and your work ethic is there, and every space that you find yourself in, that you are operating in excellence, doing your best, learning whatever role you are playing, people notice that.
Yes.
They notice that, and they notice people who make a difference and who are working hard and who are hungry and passionate and excited. And I know that's what Sam saw in you. Yeah. And so that you'll be surprised who will come over and say, hey, what's your name? And start to, because you have made an impact in your space, no matter what it is, no matter what space. If you're an intern, if you are, actually getting paid to work, it doesn't make a difference. Always make an impact where you are. Chief Impact Officer.
That's right.
No, I love that. So let's move on to finding your purpose. So you, Misa, said fashion kind of found you. It was something that was in you. Yeah. Sharifa, you started in retail and worked super hard. Now you all seem to have this bigger purpose of helping younger generations find their way. But when did you come to that? What do you think was your initial purpose when you started working in your mind when you were younger? Make people look fly?
Well, on the surface.
Yes.
But I know that within that and underneath that was my gift to help people to feel seen and to realize all of the great things about themselves.
Yes.
And how dope and unique and beautiful each individual person is, and then find things on the outside that reflected that, which is the, wardrobe, but really seeing people and for them to be seen. And I know that's why I've had so much longevity and great relationships with my clients to this day, is because they feel seen. And everything that we co-created together was authentic because they were seen. And that's why, fast forward, most of them are icons, icon status, because it's authentic and it's real. And it's, although we are looking at the outside, it starts from the inside out.
Yes.
And I'm also a certified life coach, by the way, so I've always been doing that work early on. I just felt like I'm naturally gifted, and then I became educated to become certified in life coaching. So I was always coaching my clients to be their best selves. So it wasn't just about the outside image.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're
And in
an old
another
soul.
life, I would have been a psychologist, by the way.
What about you, Sharifa? What was your original?
So I think it goes back to, of course, growing up in Brooklyn and going to school and going to work and understanding when you came home, you saw the same people doing the same things, right? And it gave me this thought process. One day I was walking home, and a girl that I knew, she was pretty young, she was pregnant. And I just looked at her and I was like, you had so much potential, and what happened? And then that made me start thinking about everyone's life story. And everyone doesn't have a Sam. Everyone doesn't have someone that's going to invest in them, right? So why not me? Someone gave me an opportunity a very long time ago, and I prayed on this, and I said, I want to make sure I can give as many people opportunity that I can give to people in any way, in any fashion. And Envision was birthed off of that. Envision was birthed off of me wanting to give back to my community, because I know what could have happened to me if someone didn't give me an opportunity, right? So what makes me any different? And how do I start to change lives? And even if you change one person, even if you get one young girl a job, that's a big deal for that one girl. You don't know where she's going to be in 10 years. So I wanted to change lives every day, more and more. And the more and more I did it, the more and more it made me feel fulfilled. If you're in a high-ranking position, and it don't even need to be a high-ranking position. If you're in a sales position, if you're in a design position, and your homie says, yo, I need a job, I'm not saying give your homie the job if they're not working and doing crazy stuff. But I am saying at least pass the resume. You never know what you can do for that next person that's going to change their lives. Short story. I went to this guy at a company. I was like, trying to get him to do Envision. He goes, you don't remember me. And I was like, no. He was like, you gave me my first in this fashion industry. Wow. So it's no reason why I'm not going to support you.
Yeah.
So you never know. And this is 10 years ago. It's you have to want to have that grit in you. And that's, I think, the relationship that Misa and I formed. Like, we've been friends for years, but whatever she asks me to do, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Because I know she's about it, and I know she's true. You know, and I
And
think that's
same.
how we need to start moving as a unit and as a
Yes.
people.
No, that's so true. So true, yes. So both of you all feel very aligned in your purpose and vision right now. But was there ever a time where you felt like what you were doing was misaligned with who you were at a particular moment?
I'm going to be honest with you, no.
We talked about this
We
last
talked
night.
about this last night, and I said it was in line because the circumstance I was put into.
Okay.
But meaning, like, I worked at a fashion trade show sold, and the whole trade show changed. I realized what corporate was about really quick. So when you're an entrepreneur, you're an entrepreneur, but once a company gets acquired, it becomes corporate very quickly. And if you're not ready for that shakeup, it could really disturb you. And from that time, I also vowed to myself I would never allow someone to make me feel less than, right? So I'm not doing anything to be unaligned. I want my mind and my spirit to feel whole. So anywhere that I go, any people that I'm around, it needs to feel that and it needs to complete that. I don't put myself in positions at this age to be in rooms that I don't have no business being in. Sometimes you want to be in spaces because you see other people in spaces. That space ain't for you sometimes. Right? If it don't align, it just doesn't align. And I think so many times we are so taught, especially with social media, right? You see everybody out at the parties, everybody, sometimes you don't need to be there. And it's okay to say no. My mother once told me, don't be the last person at nobody's party. Don't, you want that person to guess where you went. You want that person to know where you at. Let that person follow you around. Don't do it. So that's me.
That's great. Well, from your perspective, Misa, especially with your training as a life coach, what would you say to someone who's like, I've been working at this job, I'm getting paid a nice amount, but it doesn't feel aligned with my spirit? What would you say?
What would I say? I would say, first, I would ask, why isn't it aligned? And then I would ask, why are you there? And what has been stopping you from finding a place you feel aligned to? And then it would probably be an action plan in place and create goals to get into that place where that person feels aligned.
Yeah, for sure.
But also don't leave your job.
But don't leave your job.
Be aligned.
Yeah, be aligned,
Yeah,
but
get
don't leave
your
your job.
Yeah.
Start to make an action plan.
Yes, for the next job. Have you ever felt like what you were doing is misaligned? Working with talent is a lot. So,
Yeah. You know what's so crazy? I've been in this business 33 years, right?
That's
Thank
right.
you. Thank you. And there's some days I say to myself, wow, I've been here a long time, and I've survived some stuff. And I've seen so much, so many personalities, so many creatives, it's a lot, like you said, dealing with talent. But I've done it, and I believe that my gift is being able to do it well and to have good relationships with my clients. You know why? I understand them. That's what it goes back to, seeing them, understanding, listening, understanding what the client wants, making them feel seen, and having boundaries as well.
yeah.
Healthy boundaries.
Yes.
You can be very graceful with boundaries. And I think that's important. As far as feeling misaligned, I don't think that I've ever felt misaligned, but 20 years into my career, I noticed that the fashion stylist role became very popular, and there were a lot of people who were stepping into fashion styling, but they had no idea about the business, no idea how to monetize it properly, how to create, but the business part of fashion styling. And then you had, artists who were hiring their cousins to style, anybody who could go to the mall and pick out a cute outfit, were like these stylists not realizing there's a science to this, right? And there's a method and there's a business that's actually happening. And that fashion styling is different in editorial styling, is different from celebrity styling, it's different from advertising and commercials, television and film, runway fashion show styling, right? So the culture's different in each space, and what's expected of you is very different, right? So I said, instead of listening to everybody complaining about these new stylists who are messing up the game, who are undercharging, which affects everyone, who are ruining relationships with fashion houses and with consignment shops, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Just hearing it, I want to be a solution. I want to be a solution to this problem that I'm hearing about with this rise of fashion stylists who were black and brown. And so the solution was the Misa Hylton Fashion Academy. And so I said, you know what, I want to help educate these aspiring, fashion stylists and creatives so that they can be armed with the knowledge to be successful, to create longevity, to get a seat at a table or to be able to enter certain rooms, but stay there, right? Be able to stay there and actually grow and be looked at as a professional and create success around their gift. So that was where I may have felt not necessarily misaligned, but I saw something that made me feel off about a career that was so important and passionate to me. And so I decided to found MHFA.
And that speaks to like a pivot. And I want to get back to what you were saying, Sharifa, when your business was acquired, it became very corporate, and you realized, okay, I need to change. So yeah, because a lot of people at all stages of our career, we make pivots. We have to. So how did you make a pivot? What were you thinking? What was,
my thinking was very strategic just because I was under a non-compete, right? So whenever you sell a company, they put you on a non-compete so that you won't start another company. But at one point, it was just so bad, I decided I didn't care about a non-compete. I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, if it's not well for me, I had to learn that too. If it's not well for me, no amount of money in the world is gonna help you. So when I decided to leave, they were like, no, you can't leave. We need you. And I got real strategic, and I said, no problem. I'll stay and think about it. Just take me out of my non-compete. And they took me out of my non-compete. You have to learn how to be very strategic with your decisions, because once they took me out of my non-compete, once the first season of that episode was done, I started my own thing and made sure that they understood what kind of weight I pulled there. And out of the 100% of people that was at my previous trade show, 90% of them left. So they understood very clearly my value then as well. You want to teach people lessons in those processes as well. You can't let people just treat you anyhow.
Yes, right.
I'm sorry. Like, at the end of the day, I'm from Brooklyn first, and my mother didn't raise a fool.
That's right.
And we have to take care of ourselves, especially women, right? I think so many times women aren't talked to like men, right? No one sits us down and says, this is what you do in a business. And I always talk to young women, especially. I talk to men too, but I stress to women, you have a certain timeline. And we, unfortunately, as we get older, we get older. Men get more debonair, they get more sexy. You know how it goes. That's what they say.
That's what they say.
That's what they say. But, it's just like we need to really and truly start talking to each other.
Yeah.
Right? I love this space. I love what we have here. Because we form girl groups here, right? We got a whole girl band. I know my girl band is out there somewhere. But we formed a community. And these are women I just met here within the last 2 years. And I think that is something that's a beautiful thing. Because now I could talk to them about business decisions. We're all exchanging business ideas and concepts. I think that's super important.
For sure.
Right? And do understand there is no competition. We don't need to be competing. We're all the same. We all want to rise together.
That's so important to impart. So, Misa, you have the Fashion Academy. Sharifa, you have Envision. And we were just talking in the room, the green room, about how you all share resources. And you were just talking about this. Yeah. I'm just curious, how does that work?
Simple. I'm like, Misa, this is who you need to be speaking to. She's like, Sharifa, let me hit you up and connect you with so-and-so. There's no, shade, there's no nothing.
Yes.
We both want to see each other win, right? Misa asked me to show up somewhere, I'm showing up. And she'll show up for me the same way. I don't think that we have to no longer, because this was a thing in fashion, just so you guys know. If it was one black girl, it was like you were the only one. You saw another one, you thought you was getting a head nod, you were not, right? So, nowadays, when you go in a room, you're happy to see that next person. So there's no we're fam.
Yeah.
And we want to see each other succeed and do well. It may be something that I may not even be thinking about, and Sharifa knows something or has a piece of information or a contact that she can share with me, and vice versa. It's just natural. It's like, wow, you're doing this. This is dope. Do you know such and such? Have you spoke to da da da? She just shared something with me walking in the hallway. So it's just natural because, see, it doesn't. What does it hurt you to share? Like,
No,
what
for
does it hurt
sure.
you to help someone elevate what they're doing, especially when it's positive, and you know that they are serious and passionate about what they're doing as well. And you know, we work together, but we're friends in real life. So
Another part, when you launch something, another part is getting other people to believe in its purpose and getting that corporate money, which I mean, yeah. So, Misa, and you were just talking about, I am curious how you use your skill to make people feel seen when you are in an office trying to ask X company to support the Fashion Academy in what way? Like, I'm curious how you...
well, first I go into any situation like that thinking, does this corporation or brand fit with us? Right? Sometimes we go to, you know, you think you have to make sure, like, if what they stand for is aligned with your mission and your purpose. And then you build and you talk. Once you make that decision and you're still there because you see that there's some synergy, then you build and you talk and you have real conversations. Real conversations. That's it. Share about your mission. Share about your goals and what you can accomplish together, and how the relationship can be a positive one that's beneficial for both parties. And I think it's really very simple. You have to show up as a real person, like Sharifa said, as soon as we sat down. Be real, share what it is what you're doing, share your challenges, and be prepared for your ask. See, I'm not afraid to ask for anything. Sharifa's not either. You can only say no. You know, like, I'm not, and I'm just so grateful. Again, that goes back to my parents. We're both West Indian, by the way. So that goes back to our upbringing. Like, we're just very upfront. We're very graceful, but we're very real and very authentic, and I think that resonates with people, and then the proof is in the pudding. So we've been doing this work for many, many years, and so we have the track record, right? We can show you what we've done and how we have impacted so many lives along the way. So we walk into these situations being able to back up what we do, being able to back up what we are asking for by the work that we've done to date.
No, that's true. And talk about how with Envision Fest, because...
I mean, honestly, with Envision Fest, it was a slow roll in the beginning. You know, I think so many people, I don't know how come they didn't see the vision, but I thought Gen Z is super important to encourage, and then those girls and boys, those young people are going to be the ones to take over the world and be writing the bills for all of us, right? So we need to instill in them as much as we can. And as Envision was approached, like, people did not. And I had to, like, myself and my business partner, Laura, like, it was times we pulled our own money to put it together, right? And that's how you know we want the impact. We want to make change. Because when you start using your own money, you're like, okay, let me make that change. I think, and I'm going to say shout out to Adidas, which is huge for us, because Adidas, like, really saw us. They were one of the first brands that saw us and said, you know what, we want to really pay attention to this right here. And it's been a big, big move for us because we want to encourage more brands to come to Envision. Envision, for me, is a young empowerment and women's festival that we do yearly. And we want to encourage young girls that are in the inner cities. There's so many times, right, when these young girls have never been. They've never even left their, like, 4-block radius. So I want to encourage young girls and boys to come out and hear panels, get things that they've never experienced. They come into a festival that looks something upscale and important. They've never been to that. So many times when we do these community events, and they call it community events, they put it in a rec center or in this or in that. Why we gotta give our people shit that look like shit? Why they gonna wanna be at a festival in a rec center where they can go at their rec center in their projects? I wanna give my life has been about making events that are giving an upscale experience. And that's what we do at Envision. We make these young girls come. They come right before school. They're getting their hair braided. They want to feel good. You know how it is when you were growing up. You wanted that little new outfit, like Adidas and bless you with a little sneaker. You want to go to school, right? You want to make your statement. And I think those things are important, but they also get to see other young black women that look like them, that are in positions, that can make decisions, and they get to hear from them and they get to speak to them. So you're giving them a mix of all the glitz and the glam, but you're also giving them education that they're not, you know, that they don't realize they're getting until this time.
Misa, so both of you all are around a lot of young people via Fashion Academy and Envision and KIF, which we'll talk about momentarily. But I think also for older folks, I mean, when I say older, I just mean you've been in your career for 15 years, whatever. But for people who have been in their career, sometimes they want to understand, well, how do I get through to them? How do I get through to Gen Z? And how do they hear me? What have you all learned from that generation with like what drives them, how they want to be spoken to? I don't know if I mean, sometimes I'm like, why do we need to be thinking about how we speak to them? Like when I was younger, I was like, whatever, I'll do whatever, I'll just be of service. But yeah, what have you learned from that generation in terms of what moves them, what gives them purpose, how to help them?
I think we were taught different, right? Like I said, we were taught to just sit and shut up.
Yes, exactly.
Your parents used to be like, when you go with me somewhere, you sit down and don't say nothing. Gen Z is very boisterous. I think you got to bring yourself down to their level. And you got to also remember that when you were a child, that was you. Yeah. So you want to be spoken to like you wish your mother would have spoke to you or your adult friend would have spoke to you. I think it's about meeting them where they at.
Yeah.
And I know people don't want to really hear that, but you got to meet them where they're at. Your expectations from somebody can't be the same struggle that you went through.
Yeah.
So many times
That's
you
true.
hear people like, yo, I did it like that, so why can't it be done? That shit is like, it's not. Why do you want to see people struggle?
Yeah.
Just because they had you traipsing bags all around the way, that don't mean you got to have the next person.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say that with a caveat of also not being easy on them, right? Because you give them an inch, they about to take them out, just straight up.
Yeah.
You just got to know how to teeter-totter and make sure you sit in between. You got to be that firm parent, but you also got to be like, yo, I understand you. And you got to see them. And you got to understand, again, have that conversation with them. Understand where they came from. Understand what their upbringing was. Because a lot of those things play effect with how they are today.
Yeah.
Right? And I always say, just talk. Like, have these real conversations. When they feel like you really are into them and you're caring about them and you're being organic and natural, I feel like they lean into you more.
It really, go ahead, please. No, because I said you were resonating when Sharifa was like, don't make them struggle, so yeah.
Everything that Sharifa said is exactly what I was going to say. And, you know, just to piggyback off of what Sharifa said, they want to feel seen, they want to feel heard, and they want to feel accepted. So just take that beat, take that moment to really get into them, right, and understand what's important to them. They will develop a trust with you. And at the same time, yes, you have boundaries. Yes, you hold them to a standard. Yes, you share information with them that could potentially help them. But I've noticed that you know, to be gentle with them gets you further and model the behavior.
Yes.
Or put them in situations where they can see how they can grow or how they may be able to do something different or become excited about growth, right? Excited about not being a rebel 24/7, 365. And not saying that they are, but, you know, I have a rebellious spirit. You know, I got into fashion styling when that was not the thing to do. My parents didn't think it was a real job. Yeah, it's right. I was like, what, you dress people? Why they can't dress themselves? But fast forward.
Yes,
I do
exactly.
something.
Icon, yeah.
But, so, you know, where was I going with that? The rebellion, right?
Yes.
So they come across as rebellious, but sometimes rebellion saves you. So.
That's right.
It's true. So we've talked a lot about Envision, but let's talk about your work at KIF as the Chief Impact Officer. Why is it so important for you to be there? And you're basically deciding how Kith's philanthropic efforts
Yeah.
and how they help and give back. Why is that position important, and why is it important for you to be there in your eyes?
Listen, I understand some people's opinion on Kith, and I am very much aware. I listen to everyone. Why not me?
Of course.
There is no one else that can do this job the way I'm about to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you this. Everyone knows that Kith is inspired by the culture,
Yep.
right? We're inspired by the culture. So why not give back to those communities that you're inspired on? And I'm not talking about just giving back to any organizations. Normally when you have corporations or businesses, you want to give back to the biggest and the boldest. That's not me. I want to give back to the people I know that is doing the work. Do you understand? My team we go in these communities. I want to know, I'm from that community. I want to give back to the communities that support us. We have stores all over the world. All over the world, we are global. And I want to make sure that our presence is global, not only on a retail space, but on a community and impact level. So why not me?
Let's pass to that.
Absolutely.
I will say I was listening in on the last panel, and Sheena was talking about DEI and how it's going away. And I do think some people, I mean, your job is telling Kith how to spend its philanthropic dollars. But there's some people who that's not their job,
Yeah.
but they work for a big corporation, but they want to help in some. What's your advice for people who are working for a big corporation who are like, I want to make sure that they're giving back in some way or helping the community that consumes them a lot? Like, what would be your advice?
Okay. So this is a safe space, right? I just want to make sure. Nah. Some of you guys may agree, and some you may not. For me, D&I that's a title.
Yep.
Right? I don't strongly believe that those titles are secure from what I've seen from the fashion industry. Back when everybody was putting up their black box, remember everybody was putting up the black boxes, right? Everybody started these positions. No one is talking about those positions that are no longer,
Yeah.
right? And it's a problem for me. The people that were in those positions, I guarantee you, if you ask them today, they will do those positions free will, right? What I would tell somebody that is in that space today, find like-minded people like you in your office and in your community, and y'all get together and y'all start doing the work and show them what you're doing to the people that are at them, and invite them. You can start your own thing. Everyone doesn't have to be on board at the first time. You are who you are, and your passion and your impact that you're going to make, it's going to go longer than you waiting for your company to start some sort of new position that they just made up recently. Okay? I'm not being disrespectful, but I do feel like if you want to make impact, you're going to make impact no matter what, right? If you're a part of your community, you're going to pour into your community no matter what. It doesn't take a position for that.
Yeah.
So I say all that to say, y'all need to start hiring more impact leaders.
I love that. Yeah.
And I would add to that, diversity and inclusion should be every single role at every single
single company.
corporation
That's so
should
true.
operate with diversity and inclusion in mind,
Yes.
period.
Yes.
Period.
It's
Yes.
heartbreaking. It's really heartbreaking
Yeah.
for me because when you see all these roles disappearing and no one talking about it, it's like, what's going on out there?
You work with MCM as, what's the title? Global Ambassador?
Global creative partner.
Global Creative Partner. Talk to me about your work with MCM and working with them and how you try to ensure that they are also giving back and fulfilling your purpose.
Right. Well, one of the things that I love most about MCM was the fact that they were about diversity and inclusion and Black culture and hip-hop fashion from the start.
Yes.
Period. That wasn't new for them. And that is why I think that we were aligned from the start. And so much so that MCM actually founded the film I was in, the remix,
Yes.
Hip Hop Times Fashion. Has anybody seen that?
Yes.
And so that was important for them to fund that film, to share about the creatives who have made such an impact in, Black fashion. April Walker, is April here? Or does she?
Yeah, shout out.
My big sis, yep. And so Yes, so working with them has always been easy, and they've always been about supporting initiatives, including the Fashion Academy. And I think you've worked with them as well, right? With Dan on some
Yeah.
things or whatever. They're very inclusive, and they want to make a difference. I know we're
Yes.
out of time.
Oh yeah, we are out of time. I don't want to close so abruptly, but I will because I don't want to mess up the schedule. But that was so informative. Thank you so much, Misa,
Thank you.
Sharifa, for all that great information.
Thank you.